Technical analysis, especially leveraging charts to observe stock movements, is a fundamental aspect of trading for most traders. In this video, we'll smoothly navigate through Trader Workstation's charts, set up studies, and grasp efficient ways to apply them in our trading strategies. So let's dig in to those charts. Okay, so here we are in Trader Workstation, and this is just a blank layout, so we can add to this. So we're just going to add a chart so that we can walk through how the charts work in Trader Workstation. Now, Trader Workstation actually has 3 different types of charts. So if I go up here to the new window and I go down to chart, you'll notice over here that it has advanced chart, chart, and thumbnail chart. We're going to go ahead and just start with the thumbnail chart because it's a super simple one, and then we'll do a bigger walkthrough of the regular chart and the advanced chart. Now, for those of you that want to just skip right ahead to the advanced chart, which is Trader Workstation's newer chart version powered by TradingView, go ahead and skip to that one. But we'll take a look at thumbnail chart, we'll go to chart, and then we'll do advanced chart. So the thumbnail chart is pretty much what it says. It's just a thumbnail. You don't get any sort of toolbar on the sides, no quick access to trend lines or studies or anything like that. You can still add them, but it's really just a bird's eye view type of chart that you can have kind of off in the corner if you just want to see what's going on. So we're not going to actually use this one. I'm going to go ahead and close out of it. Again, this is the thumbnail chart. Now I'm going to go back up to new window. I'm going to go down to chart, and then I'm going to add chart. So this is the older version of Trader Workstation's charting system. And I'm going to go ahead, there's these little arrows over here. I'm just going to hit the down arrow and get rid of the order entry window because we're not focused on that right now. We're just going to talk about the charts. So in this version of charts, the first thing we'll notice is that at the top left-hand corner, this is where you're going to see what stock symbol you're on. So right now we're on Apple. If you want to switch to a different stock symbol, you can type it in or scroll down to one that you've viewed recently. And then next to that, we're going to have the different time frames. So as little as 30 seconds up to a weekly, a month, and so on. Now below that, you'll see just the standard toolbar. So this is what Trader Workstation will load you with. It is customizable, but we'll walk through what's on here to start. So the first one on the left-hand side, you'll see this little T symbol. This is your text or commentary symbol to mark up your chart and put notes on it. So if I click on this here, I can then come in here, I can change the font size, I can change the font style, I can change the color, and I can enter a comment. So we'll just go in here and say Apple consolidation, and we'll hit OK. And then we put where we want that to be. So over here, Apple kind of consolidated a little bit, so I'll just go ahead and put it right here. And that's the text that I want to put on my chart. Now, if I want to edit that, I can just double click on it and it will bring up this box again. So I can edit it, I can change the color, the size, and all of that stuff. Then the button next to that, if I highlight it, you'll see it says show bars. If I click on that, it will change this to a bar chart. If I go back to it again, it'll say show candlesticks. I can click on that and it will change it back to candlesticks. Now the next button here is for editing your chart. So to put horizontal lines, to put trend lines. So if I go to edit chart here, I can draw a little trend line like this. And I can go back to this button here and I can put horizontal line and I can just click that right there. Now the next 2 buttons are zoom in and zoom out. Right now, the chart that we're on is actually adjustable using the wheel on your mouse. Now some charts you will actually need the zoom in and zoom out button for. Now, if I go to this drop down up here, anything in blue will use the wheel on my mouse. So if I change to a 30-minute chart, I can still use the wheel on my mouse. So I'm just scrolling in and scrolling out. However, if I go to a time period down here, it will lock in a specific time frame. So I'm going to go to today, and I'm going to go to a 20-minute candle chart. So now if I use the wheel, it will actually change the width of the candles rather than scrolling in and out. Now I need to use the zoom in and zoom out buttons. So if I zoom in and I click here and then I drag all the way over here, it's going to zoom into just this part of the chart. And then I can hit the zoom out button and go back to where I was. Now the next button is just the crosshair. So if you want the crosshair so that you can see exactly where you are on the chart, that way if you've got a bunch of candlesticks right here forming a bit of a base, you want to put the crosshair underneath it to see exactly where they line up with the price, you could use it for that. The next 2 buttons that are provided here decrease and increase the bar width like we're doing with our wheel right now. And those are just the standard buttons that they start you off with. But you'll notice there's a little drop down right here. If I hover over it, it says more icons. So I'm going to hit that little drop down and I'm going to go to configure toolbar. Now here's where we can add different things to the toolbar. So you can see the ones that are checked are the ones that are sitting there already. So add commentary is there, different bar types, zoom in, zoom out. Those are all there already. but maybe I want to have easy access to adding a study to my chart. So I'm going to check mark this one here, adding a study. And then I'm also going to do add financial instrument. This one will allow me to compare different stocks. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit here to see what else they have. I'm going to add an easy undo and redo button in case I draw something on my chart and I want to take it off and then I realize I want to put it back on. And then we'll scroll down just a little bit more and let's add a Fibonacci line here. So once I have everything that I want to add to my toolbar, I'm going to go ahead and just hit apply and then I will hit OK. Now you'll notice the toolbar got a little bit longer here. Our buttons have been added and we've got some more things to choose from at the top. So this one will let us add a financial instrument to compare to this chart here. We can come over here and we can add a study very easily. And then over here, we've added the undo and redo buttons. And then next to that, we have the Fibonacci line. Now, before I add anything else to my chart, I'm going to go up to view and I'm going to add this legend right here. So you'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner, this legend appears. Once I start adding studies, I'll be able to see them down here. I can turn them off and turn them on so that I can see them when I want to see them and not see them when I don't want to see them. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to go to study. There's some quick ones to choose from right here that I could use, but you can also go to all studies down here just to see all of them in one place. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to all studies and this window will pop up. So now I can type in here for a quick search, or I can come down here and choose from these drop down menus here like this. So I'm going to go up here to the search bar. I'm just going to type in VWAP or volume weighted average price. And I can see right here I have the intraday volume weighted average price. I'm going to go ahead and click on that and hit add. And I can go ahead and I can make changes to this. So I can name it something else if I want to name it something else. I can change the standard deviations for it. I can change the period in which it's calculated. And I can also change the colors. So right now, if I go here to change next to where it says upper, I can change to any of the colors that I want to change to. We'll just leave it as is. And I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. And then I'm going to hit OK. So now down here, you'll see that it got added to my legend. So I can actually see VWAP here. Now there's a little box. If I uncheck it, it takes VWAP off of my chart. So if I don't want to see it for some reason, I can quickly take it off. And then I can also just quickly put it back on. Now up here where it says financial instrument, I'm going to go ahead and click that. And I'm just going to go ahead and type in Microsoft. So we'll type in Microsoft here. And I'm going to hit apply. And I'm going to hit OK. And this adds a comparison to another financial instrument. So I can add that to my chart. I can also compare indexes. That's also on here as well. And then just like VWAP, I can take it off if I don't want to look at it. Now you'll notice next to this little check mark box, there is actually a little tool icon. So if I go ahead and I click on that, it will bring up this comparison that I added to the chart. And if I don't want it on there at all anymore, I can just hit this X. Same thing with studies. If I don't want something on my chart anymore at all, I can go to this little area right here where it says the applied studies that I have on my chart. I can highlight it and hit remove and it will take it off my chart. And then I just go ahead and I hit apply and OK, and it's no longer on there. So the next thing we're going to look at is we're going to go up to edit at the top and go to chart parameters. Now in chart parameters, you have a few things to choose from to make your chart what you want it to be. So in the beginning, we talked about the bar chart and the candlestick chart, but in here under chart parameters, we can see that there's also Heikin-Ashi candles and hollow candles. So you can choose from those as well. You can choose some additional data and features to add to your chart down here. Then in this section here where it says auto scale, right now we have scale to fit studies selected, but sometimes that can screw up the chart. So if you want to ignore the studies, just in case they're too far out of the chart, it will help your chart just expand in a normal sort of way. So usually ignoring the studies is a little bit more eye friendly, but you can have whichever you want. And then down here you have the time options. So right now it's going to show you the time in market time, but you can also have it show you it in your own user time zone. So if I click this button right here, it will show the time at the bottom to be in my time zone, but I prefer market time, so I'm going to leave that unchecked. So at the top, you'll notice a few different tabs. We've already gone over studies and we did a quick overview of secondary series. This is where we added another financial instrument. In our case, we added Microsoft. Now you'll notice to the right, there's one more tab here that's index comparisons. This is where you can actually add an overall index to your chart to compare how, let's say, Apple is doing to the S&P 500 or compare it to how it's doing to the NASDAQ 100 and so on. I'm just going to go ahead and hit cancel. I don't want to add any of those to my chart right now. So now we'll go back up to edit at the top. And you'll notice down here it says annotations. So this is a quick way to just add some things to your chart. So I can add a solid arrow. Maybe I want to point out this candlestick right here. So I can just click on that and drag an arrow to that candle. So in case you don't add this studies button to your toolbar, you can also go up to edit here and get to studies from there. So I can go edit studies, and then it brings up this studies window right here. Now, let's say that you have a bunch of trend lines on your chart that you don't need anymore and don't want to have on here anymore. You can right click on your chart and you can go to remove all trend lines. and that will get rid of anything that has an annotation or a trend line on your chart. Now, one last thing about this chart is that most traders are looking for a little bit more room to the right-hand side of their chart. You'll notice that down here, there's this tiny little arrow. If I hover over that, this will turn blue and I can then drag like this. This will give me a little bit more space to the right-hand side of my chart. Okay, so that is a main overview of just the regular standard chart that Trader Workstation offers. What we're gonna do is we're gonna close out of this one and we are going to open an advanced chart. So I'm gonna hit new window. I can go to advanced chart at the top here, or again, down to chart, over to advanced chart here. Okay, so here we have Apple again. So like I said previously, if you are familiar with TradingView, you'll have a super easy time with this. This is actually powered by TradingView. If I hover over this little info symbol right here, it's gonna say powered by TradingView. Now, these charts are advanced, just like they say. There's a lot that you can do with them. I'm going to cover a majority of it to get you going, but there is a lot going on here, so feel free to dig into all the other little nooks and crannies. So first thing to know here is that this chart is interactive by clicking and dragging. So I can actually click on it and I can drag it over. Same thing with the price on the right-hand side. If I click over on the right-hand side, I can drag up to make the candles bigger or wider, or I can drag down to make them smaller. So it is interactive with clicking and dragging. Now, similar to the other chart, on the upper left-hand side, you'll see the stock that you're watching. You can hit the drop down and put something else in here. You can type in here. We'll keep it on Apple for now. And then underneath that, you'll see the time frame. So this is on a 30-minute chart right now. We can switch it to a 1-hour chart or anything else. So right now we're on the 1-hour chart. We're going to go ahead and cover the upper toolbar here, and then we'll take a look at what's going on the left-hand side. So the first button next to the time frame that we're on is the candles button. So if I click the candles button, similar to the other chart, I get some options to change my candlesticks to. So right now we're on regular candles. I can change it to a bar chart similar to the other one. I can go Heikinashi, I can do a line chart. There are a ton of options here. I'm gonna go back to candlesticks for now. Then the next button over here is gonna be your indicators or your studies. So if I click on this, I can go into here and I can say moving average. And then I'm just gonna go down to a standard moving average and it will add a moving average to my chart. Now, what moving average is it? The way to find out is to look over here. So similar to the legend that we had in the bottom right-hand corner of the other chart, in the upper left-hand side, you'll see any of the studies that you've added to your chart. So up here, we can see that I have VWAP on here, and now we can see the moving average that was added as well. So this automatically added a 9 SMA, but let's say I wanna change it. So I'm gonna go over to this little settings wheel right here, and I'm gonna click on the settings wheel. Now here I can change the style of it. So I can go in here and I can change the color. Let's change it to yellow. And then on the input side, this is where I can change what type of moving average I want. So right now it's on a 9. I'm gonna change it to a 20. And I'm gonna change this from a simple moving average to an exponential moving average. So I'm gonna change it to an EMA and I'm gonna hit OK. Now, similar to the last legend, if I don't want to see these studies on my chart, I can use this little eyeball feature right here. So this is the hide button. So if I do this, it'll take off that moving average. So same thing with VWAP. I can hover over it here. It'll bring up this little eyeball. I'll click that and it will hide VWAP. Now I'm going to bring back the moving average, and then there's these 3 little dots right here. If I click on this, this brings up the more section. So there's a visual order right here. I can bring these to the front, I can send them to the back, bring forward, send backward. This way, if there are a ton of studies on your chart, you can actually bring the ones forward that you really want to be seeing. Now, let's say I don't want this moving average anymore. I would just come over here and I would hit the X and it would get rid of it. Let's go ahead and bring back VWAP, and then let's add one more indicator. So I'm gonna click on here, and maybe I wanna add an RSI indicator, so a relative strength index. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that one, and you'll see it populated down here. Now, as I'm adding studies to my chart, it's possible that I don't want some of them on the actual bars themselves. So if you go over to the right-hand side, there's this little layer looking symbol. If I click on that, it will bring up what's called the object tree. Now in the object tree, it will show you the different studies that you've added to your chart. Now you'll see that they're divided by these lines right here. Everything that I see under this one right here, so VWAP and moving average, I'm gonna see in this upper one right here. Then you'll notice this line. When that line happens, anything under that is going to be the volume one, and then another line you'll see right here, and that's the RSI. Now let's say for whatever reason, I want VWAP to be in its own little area. So I can click on VWAP here, and then if I click these arrows right here, it'll say new pane above or new pane below. I can say new pane below, and you'll notice that it moves VWAP to a new pane below down here. So now it's divided and it's in its own little section. Now, let's say I want to switch all of these panes around. So you'll notice if I hover on the right-hand side, it actually will bring up these arrows. So let's say instead I want VWAP to be above this chart up here. So I can hit the up arrow here and it will put it above it. Now, if I want to join it back with the one that it started with, if I right click on it here, I can go to move to, and it will say existing pane below. And now they're back together. So this is one pane now. You'll notice here on the right-hand side, we have moving average and VWAP all in the same section. Now, once I have some studies that I like on my chart, I might want to save it. So next to where it says indicators, it says indicator templates. If I click on that and I say save indicator template, it will give me the option to save this. So I'll just say VWAP, RSI, volume, MA20. And I'm just going to save that. So now let's say that I decide I want to get rid of all of these. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to hit X on this one. I'm going to hit X on this one. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to just get rid of all of these ones as well. And then let's say all of a sudden I realize I want them back. Well, I saved it. So if I go up to these little 4 boxes here where it is the indicator templates, if I click on that, I can see the one that I saved. So I'll click on the VWAP RSI, volume, moving average 20, and it will bring back the chart that I had. And then one last thing in this little area here, you can adjust these panes so I can squish them down or I can make them bigger. And we'll go ahead and close this object tree here. So next to the indicator section, there'll be this little clock that has a number 24 next to it. That just means that right now we're using outside of market hours. So we're using the market hours as well as anything that's happening after the market close and before the market open. If I click on this, it will change it to regular trading hours or RTH. So this will just be anytime the market is open. I'm going to go back to the 24-hour clock. Now, next to that, you can take a snapshot of a chart that you're on. So if I want to take a snapshot of Apple right now, and I'll just do this right here. So I'll take a snapshot and I'll say Apple 1 hour and I'll hit save. Now, if I switch to something else, let's say I go to Microsoft and maybe I bring up the Microsoft 5-minute chart. And then I realize I want to take a quick look at that Apple snapshot. So next to the little feature where we took the snapshot is a little file folder. So if I click that, I can see where it says Apple 1 hour. If I click on that, it will bring me back to that 1 hour chart on Apple. Even though it says Microsoft up here, you can see that we are on the Apple chart. But just to be safe, I'm going to go back to Apple. And then to the right-hand side, you'll notice the undo and redo buttons as well. Now, one last thing before we get to the left-hand side here, there is a settings wheel over here in the upper right-hand corner. If I click that, it will bring up your chart settings. So if you want a different background, let's say that you want a white background, you can change it to a white background. You can change your grid lines and so on. And then you can also come up here to symbol. You can change what your candlesticks look like. And this is just a way to do the settings of just your charts in general. Okay, so now on the left-hand side is where all the fun happens. So the first one at the top is going to be your crosshair. So if I click on that, I can have the crosshair. You'll notice it here as I'm moving around the chart. I can also change this to a dot. You'll notice in the center, it's no longer a crosshair, it's just a dot. I can move to an arrow. And then also there is the eraser tool. Now the next one down is your trend line tool. So if I click on this right now, I'll just be able to draw a trend line. But you'll notice that next to all of these here, there is a little arrow. So if I click this little arrow, it will bring up a whole bunch more trend lines. So we can do horizontal lines, ray lines, vertical lines, cross lines, parallel channels, you name it. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it on trend line. One thing to note is that when you're drawing trend lines on this chart or adding really any type of tool, you need to click to finalize it. So if I go to draw a trend line on here, and let's just say I do this, I come up to the top, I'm not finished until I click again. So I have to click one more time and that's when it finishes. Now, if I want to adjust what this trend line looks like, you'll notice if I hover over it, I get this little hand feature. So once I get the hand feature, I'll click on it and that will bring up this little toolbar here. So this is a way to change how thick the line is. So I can change it to a 4. It's a way to change the color. If I click on this, I could change it to, we'll do yellow again. And if I go into settings, this allows even more things to do to it. You'll notice over here, though, it says text. If I click on text and then I select the text box right here, and then we'll change this to white so it's easy to see. And in here, I might just say 1 hour trend line. And we'll go ahead and hit OK. And you'll notice it adds text to this trend line. So if I have a bunch on my chart and I drew them for all different reasons, it's a good way to be able to keep track of what I'm trying to draw and track on my chart. I can also click these dots right here and I can clone this. So if I go down to clone, it'll clone the line and I can move that to wherever I want it to go. Now, if I want to delete it, I can hit the trash can here, or as long as this is selected, I can hit delete on my keyboard and it will also get rid of it. Let's go ahead and just get rid of this one. Now, the next one down is the Fibonacci tool. So if you click this little arrow next to the Fibonacci tool, you'll notice all of these Fibonacci tools. There are a lot of them. The most popular one is obviously Fibonacci retracement. So if I highlight that, I can put the Fibonacci retracement on my chart. So maybe I want to add one here on this trend. So I'll go from the bottom to the top. And then similar to the trend line, I can come in here and I can edit it to whatever I want. So if I click on the settings wheel, I can change the different numbers in the Fibonacci retracement and what it looks like. The next one down is going to be your shapes tool. So again, the arrow to the right hand side, you'll notice it has rectangles, circles, curves, triangles, and all kinds of things. So if I want to put a rectangle around something, I can just click on that and I can add a rectangle here. And again, I can edit that however I want. Here we have our annotation tool. So this is where we can write on our chart. We can also click this arrow and we'll see things like comments, price labels, call outs. So maybe I want to call out this rectangle here and I want to say something like 1 hour consolidation, and then I can just hit OK. The next one down is your pattern tool. So if I click on the arrow, I can see ABCD patterns, I can see Elliott waves, I can see head and shoulders. So if I want to do an ABCD pattern, I just click on this, and then I would mark it A, B, C, D. The next one down is forecasting and measurement. So if you want to see a percentage that a stock has moved or could move if you're trying to get to a certain area, this is where you're going to choose that. So if I click over here and I say price range, and let's say we go from the top of this rectangle to the bottom of this rectangle, it'll tell me that from top to bottom, it dropped 2.04%, give or take. The next one down is your emojis. So if you're having a great day, maybe you add a smiley face to your chart somewhere. But let's say that you took a terrible trade and it's not fun and you lost a bunch of money, then you can put a sad face here. Now, the next one down is your measuring tool. So you'll notice this little ruler right here. I'm actually going to go to a different place on the chart since this is getting a little bit messy. So I'm just going to drag it over and I'm going to zoom in. Now, if I click my measuring tool and I want to measure from this high to this low, I can click on here and I can go to this low right here. And it will tell me, I've put in here 20 bars. This is how much volume it has. This is how much it dropped from the high to the low, 2.5%. And I can do that anywhere on my chart, wherever I need a measurement. Now, the next one down is the zoom in feature. So if I want to use that, I can just click on this little magnifying glass. So I'm going to click and I'm going to hold. And I'm just clicking and holding to the part where I want to see. So I'm going to drag it all the way over here and I'm going to let go and it will zoom into this area. And if I want to zoom back out, I can just hit the zoom out tool. Or again, I can use my mouse wheel. So now below that, we have the magnet. If I click this arrow, you'll notice that there's weak magnet and strong magnet. I'm going to start with weak magnet and I'm going to click this horizontal line up here. So now I'm on the horizontal line, and when I hover over a price, so anywhere over here, you'll notice that. So right now I'm at 359.65. When I click, it's going to draw that level at 359.65, wherever I'm hovering, wherever my line is, wherever my mouse is. Now let's say instead we want it to clip to the top or bottom of the candlestick in that area. To make this easy, I'm going to go to a 1-day chart. Sometimes it's just a little bit easier to see. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click the strong magnet this time. And I'm going to click this horizontal line again. And now if I place my cursor in line with, let's say, this candle right here, and I'm below it, if I click, it will put the level right at the low of that candle. Now, if I want to place another line, if I go back here and I hit horizontal line and I hover over this candlestick, but to the top side, and I click, it will place the horizontal line at the high of that candle. So this is the strong magnet feature. So if you're quickly going through and just trying to mark daily levels or weekly levels or just strong levels based off of higher time frames, using the strong magnet can be really easy and really good for that. So the next one down is stay in drawing mode. So if I click on this and then I choose, let's say, a trend line feature, so I'm going to go to trend line. What this will do is it will keep my trend line tool active. So I don't have to keep going back and clicking on it. So let's say I draw something here and you'll notice it's still active, right? So I come down here and I can draw another one here. So maybe I'm just drawing trend lines all morning on my charts before the market opens, just wherever. Like we're just drawing them all over the chart. Now you'll notice if I turn this off, and this is highlighted right now, so we're still on trend lines, and I come in here and I draw something, as soon as I draw it, this is no longer highlighted. It's no longer blue. So if you want to just stay in a tool, clicking on this stay in drawing mode will allow you to just stay in it without having to keep going back and forth and clicking that tool. Now the one below that is the lock all drawing tools. What that's for is what you'll notice is right now I can click on this line and I can move it. So I can drag it over here. I can drag this one over here. If I lock this, then I can no longer actually move these. So I don't accidentally put them somewhere where they don't belong. Now, the next one down is to just hide all the drawings. So if I click this little arrow here, I can hide all my drawings, hide all my indicators, or hide everything. So I can do hide all. This gets rid of VWAP, this gets rid of my trend lines, and I can of course bring them back. Then below that, we get the trash can. So I can remove drawings, I can remove indicators, and I can remove everything. You can also right click on your chart to remove drawings and indicators. That's another way to do it. Now I've gone ahead and quickly switched over to the 5-minute chart. What you'll notice is I'm not all the way to the right of my chart, and I want to see what's going on with a little bit of extra room to the right hand side. So similar to the other chart, we can do that down here with this arrow. So it'll move to the most recent bar and you'll get that extra space that you want to the right hand side. And that is an overview of the advanced chart section on Trader Workstation. Remember, there are 3 different types of charts on this platform. There are the thumbnail charts, the regular charts, and then the advanced charts. There are a lot of tools and features in these charts, so play around with them. And of course, if you have any questions about anything regarding the chart setups, drop us a comment and we would be happy to help you out.